Just a few fellas on a podcast, ripping in the pitching jokes and sharing some laughs. Rob Ryan, Pedro, Jerry Bernstein. Ooh, they want to know if it's something, if it's anything.
I forgot to put audio on until you started saying gentler butt sex. So, welcome everybody.
Perfect.
Is This Anything? With special guest Rob Ryan.
Hey! Oh my
For those
god!
of you who don't know, this is the podcast where comedians pitch joke ideas to each other and we punch them up.
That's right. Our guest almost never summarizes the show for us, which is so rare. So rare.
Also, neither do the hosts.
That's right. That's an excellent point.
Well, I've got an exciting catch up for you guys.
Hey, let's hear it.
I went to my soon-to-be brother-in-law's bachelor party in in Louisville. No strip clubs here, just shooting guns and drinking bourbon, and they went skydiving. I didn't do that, but I had a couple perfect comedy moments throughout the weekend, and I'll share one of them with you, which is that my brother was talking to this guy Kenny, who's a great guy at the bachelor party. Kenny saying like, yeah, people used to give me like the weirdest reaction because I would eat salt and vinegar chips and then I would follow it with a bunch of chocolate milk. And my brother is like, yeah, that's because that's an insane thing to eat. And then they were going back. He's like, no, I'm not. He's like, you're like milk and vinegar. Like, what are you talking? And he's like, no, you don't just pour milk in there and into vinegar. And then they're going back and forth. And eventually I was like, you know what I think? I think taste is subjective, so nobody's wrong. And then from behind me, this guy Teddy goes, I used to eat a whole bag of Cool Ranch Doritos and then chug a gallon of orange juice. And without turning around, I was like, that's wrong.
The no look. Excellent.
Yeah, I was like,
That's wrong.
Wow.
No matter what he said, I was going to say that.
Oh, yeah.
But he happened to say something that was batshit insane.
I like how you're like, no strip clubs. We just did shooting guns and bourbon. So we didn't completely get rid of toxic masculinity. Like there was still some. There was still a little bit.
We didn't do them at the same time.
Oh,
We
that's
had White
good.
Claws before we shot guns.
For safety. Oh, nice. So you were
responsible.
That's great. I'm glad you had a fun weekend.
Yeah. It was a good time. It was a hell, because of the storms in New York and Louisville or in Kentucky. It was hell to get there. My flight got canceled on the Uber there. They were just like, hey, everybody for this flight will be on their way now if they want to make the flight. Okay, we'll cancel it now. So I was like, cool. I just paid $40 to leave my house and come back. Jeez. And then they were like, sorry, we can't get you on another flight. And I didn't know that you could fight for them to book you on a different airline if you've already paid it, like if they cancel the flight. And so they were like, all we could do is refund you. And I was like, okay. So then I used that money to buy a different flight, which was way more expensive. And the next morning, but eventually I got there. I had to do a whole kinds of layovers. I had to take an hour and a half Uber from Cincinnati to Louisville. The woman, the driver was like, her name was Patricia. That was the only thing that was correct. Wrong license plate, wrong car, and a picture of a different person. And I was like, are you sure you're Patricia? And she was like, yep. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get in this car. But, and then we were talking. And she was like, yeah, I have a rental. My car's in the shop. And I keep switching the information and Lyft keeps switching it back. So I don't know what's going on. And I was like, okay. And I was like, in the picture, looks nothing like you. And she's like, oh, yeah, it was like a bad picture of me. I look way older in that picture. And like while she's driving, I was like, I think I need to show her this picture. So I held the phone up front and I was like, is this you? And she was like, nope. I was like, do you know who that is? She was like, nope.
Whoa.
So weird.
Bananas. Yeah. And you're still alive. That's the craziest part of the story.
We had a great trip. We talked about a lot of things, and she ended up being great. Apparently Lyft doesn't even have like a customer service. So anytime something goes wrong, like somebody burned a cigarette hole in her seat, and they just like she has to like go through an app and chat with somebody, and then if there's like no actual like person to connect with. So even though Uber is the worst, I think Lyft is not that much better.
It's not that much better, but it's better for a handful of reasons. What's blowing my mind is like at a moment where chaos is reigning in the world, that is the exact moment that all these companies that were like subsidizing themselves on future profits decided, well, now we need to actually like start making a profit. So now in addition to everything else in the world getting worse, we're also jacking up our prices just because our business model just completely exploded on itself. It's like all the fucking dominoes. When it rains, it pours, man.
Yeah.
Cancels flights.
Yeah. You beat me this time, Rob.
I actually wanted to give a shout out to airlines because they cancel flights, like in part sometimes for overcrowding and poor planning for sure. But many times they also cancel flights because of purely safety reasons. And they I don't think, do the best job of making that clear to their customers. They just say, hey, the flight's canceled. But I do love the indignance that we have. We're just sitting there like, this is bullshit. I don't understand. And it's like so funny. It's like, okay, your likelihood to die just went up like tenfold. And so we're not flying the plane. And we're just like, yeah, I want to go to Cincinnati.
They're coming over the loudspeaker. They're like, there is a series of tornadoes and volcanoes and alien attacks. And so we are delaying your flights for 45 minutes. People are like, Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus.
It's supposed to be a bachelor party, but Godzilla.
Just fly evasively. Jesus. You can't go like this. You can't go like this.
I'm going to say you can't give airlines credit. You have to give the FAA credit because they're the ones who cancel the flights.
Yeah.
And the airlines would absolutely fly their pilots into the mouth of Godzilla if they could make a $20 profit.
If it was a penny cheaper to kill everybody on every flight, they would do it. That is 100% accurate. So yeah, the FAA, another
FAA,
win
good for you. That actually reminds me of there was definitely at least a Godzilla poster, and I remember some others as well when I used to like pay close attention to posters while I was waiting for the subway years ago, where you have some disaster movie. Let's say you see Godzilla on the poster, and then they always the artists who make the poster always like to dot a few helicopters just to like round out the look. But I'm trying to imagine the headspace of the guy who's a helicopter pilot, who's like, we should take a closer look at this. I want to get close to this in my like little whirly machine that is notoriously unstable.
It a news chopper? That's like, we got to get the story. Is it an attack helicopter? Like, we got to shoot bullets at this thing? Like, I can see justification here, you know?
That's true if you're trying to like get the scoop and get the image. You're right about that.
I don't think anybody just like owned a helicopter and was like, I want to go check out this Godzilla thingy.
Well, I would say news chopper over like attack helicopter, because like, you know, the attack helicopters, like, I don't see what they think they're gonna. It's always so weird to just see like the infantry like shooting the bullets at the fucking Godzilla. Like, what do you like? You just have to do that. I mean, at some point,
you gotta do something, right? You gotta do something.
Yeah, because otherwise people would be like, oh, they just flew around and did nothing. Don't we pay all this military budget for something?
This is an excellent analogy for all of politics. Where it's like, if you do something, you're like, what are they even doing up there? What are they,
exactly.
But then if they hit him, say, why don't you shoot it? Why don't you?
Come on, it's right there. You have the bullets.
Get your helicopters up. Shoot the thing.
Yeah.
Also, healthcare.
Oh, we have money to shoot at Godzilla, but we don't have money for healthcare.
I will say, Rob, at the very least, they should be, at least for posters now, it should be drones at most. There's no reason for a human in a helicopter to be there.
That's cool. Significantly lower stakes, though. You know, where it's like when you see a helicopter in a disaster movie and it's shooting at a monster and there's a person in there. There's a part of us that's like, oh no, when Godzilla destroys that helicopter, a human will die. But if it's a drone, we're just like,
I feel the same way about drones.
You don't care about humans.
No,
I
feel about
the drones.
I feel about both drones and humans. I have the same level of empathy.
Wow, you're really gonna get spared when the robots take over, Brett. Just based on this one clip, he's one of the good ones. Robot lives and human lives.
I just love technology.
Yeah. I feel like we need more words for drones. I mean, it's weird that like I can buy a drone and like film like something in Central Park, but we can also like drone strike at cobble. Like, I don't think it's weird for me. Just word lexicon wise, I just want more words.
I think it should be the difference between whales and killer whales. It should be drones and killer drones.
There you go, for sure.
Is there a third category?
Of whale?
Of drone.
Of drones. There's civilian drones and then like military drones and then...
I was watching a movie from like the early 90s and they were doing this like nice sweeping helicopter shot, and it made me think of like how much more involved and expensive that is than if I saw a similar shot today. I'd be like, oh, they just put a drone up there. It's easy. And like, as opposed to like getting a helicopter. It's like, you got a helicopter to shoot that.
Well, I don't think that's very fair to the drone, Rob.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, you're fine, Brett. They already heard you, okay?
I love robots.
Brett, save Brett when he
I
go
said
kill Brett.
Every night before I go to bed, I go, hey, Google, save me.
I love you. Oh, boy.
Thanks for the candy.
Can I catch you guys up on the Jarret story and what's going on with this fella over here?
The Jarret story, yeah.
Jarret story. So last time we checked up on Jarret, previously on Jarret, I was on the road, and it was off to a chaotic start. We had a 6-day stretch of just driving show, and a lot of really good ones, a lot of great fucking bangers of shows. We did a fully sold out Neptune Theater, 750 people, incredible show. And it was this kind of show where as a stand-up, you're like, that was perfect. The audience laughed where they were supposed to laugh. They exploded the moments they were supposed to give you the chuckles where they were supposed to chuckle. They weren't giving you too much. They weren't giving you too little. Just fucking 10 out of 10. And my little sister was in the audience too. And it's like, that's the only time I ever get nervous is when I have somebody that I care about in the audience. And she got to see me crush in front of 750 people. I was like, hell yeah, man.
That's great.
That's awesome.
But then we all got really tired. We all get really tired after the Neptune show. And we had 2 more shows in Spokane the very next day. So we got into a car, drove the 5 hours out there, rested for a hot second, did the 2 shows. And it's a rare thing for me because Steve is like a machine and he just goes. It's rare for me to see him at the end of a tour be like, all right, one last one, guys. One last one and we can get out of here. But yeah, everybody was tired and we were all just like equally like, we're just going to have fun with these last couple of shows and then get out of Dodge, man.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a bear of a return flight because I had a 3-hour layover in Seattle, which is further west than where I was in Spokane. So I had to fly further away, wait a long time, and then go home. I started out at 9 a.m. I got home at 1 a.m.
Wow.
But you know what helped? I was super high the entire fucking time. It was a delight just watching movies, having a great time, eating food in the airport. I got a big old pillow. I slept a little bit on the side of the plane. It's fucking great, man. And then I had delightful weed hangover yesterday. Played a little D&D. What's up?
On the side of the plane?
Oh, the wall.
Like against the wall. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I just popped out.
Tom
there.
Cruise did. He just
There's a man on the wing, and he looks sleepy.
And high. Dude. He's going like this to the air. He's just like,
that's good. Is he eating the engine?
I'm just trying to open those blue chips, just like flying all over. Oh man, what a bummer!
He's really high out there.
It's so bad for him. He looks so hungry.
You know how like whenever there's a drunk driving accident, usually the drunk driver survives because when you're on alcohol, your body's looser, you don't tense up, and you don't get hurt the way that other people do. I would love it if weed people. What'd you say?
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's true. That's accurate.
See, try to go limp if you ever get into a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Try not to tense up. It's gonna be impossible, but try not to.
Yeah.
Try to if you can get out of the car and leave first. If you can do that.
This is like a school shooting tutorial. It's just like, try your best to catch the bullet. And you won't be able, but try at least. That's your only hope, I would love it if people that were high were similarly like invulnerable, and just like they're just like standing on the wing of a plane as it's flying. It doesn't even have to hold on to anything. Just like, yeah, man, jamming. I have one other story, but that's the catch-up part of it.
Earlier, I said thanks for the candy, and that was a reference to, there was an old I think it's from his first Comedy Central Presents Dane Cook special. This is before his fiance was born, and he had done this joke
Probably true.
about he had done this joke
Excellent. Excellent, Rob. I loved it.
about the kid in class who, or the guy at work rather, who was always really quiet and weird. And it was just kind of like a school shooter or like, you know, office shooter joke where he's like, I'm always nice to that guy. Every time I see that guy, I'm like, oh, hey, you know, and I'm always like talking to him, trying to make conversation. I give him candy. I'm like, here, hey, you like candy? Here's some candy. Whatever. And because we all know that one day is going to happen. He comes in, starts shooting up the place, and he does this whole act out of shooting up the place. And then he's finally going to come up to me and be like, thanks for the candy. And just keeps on walking on.
That's great.
It's such a funny bit. I just love it.
Dane Cook dealing with mass shootings with the deft touch that the issue deserves.
Well, this is before,
way
before
they were
Columbine.
I know.
I think it was literally maybe pre-Columbine, so it wasn't even
Before
like
that,
a
it was
thing.
going postal was like, that was the thing. That was probably based off of. But man, old Dane Cook is great. You know,
Yeah, he was a good comic.
Such an underrated. I mean, everybody is very happy to erase his comedy before he got like super famous, but it's really good. He's a very talented person. He's definitely. It's sad to see him now. For sure.
Some people, when you get successful, you think, oh, I don't have to try anymore. I don't have to write anymore. You know, hey, you just coast on those laurels. I see it 100 times with all these really successful comics. But I got to tell you guys something. When we were in Richland, Oregon, we were in this theater. The previous day, we were in the Knitting Factory, which was a great venue, but it was a rock club. And so like the audio was too echoey and it wasn't full enough. And it just was like the whole rhythm was off. And then we're in Richland and we're in this like converted movie theater that for some reason, like it was perfect, you know, like the audience was responsive, audio was great. And I was just like, I would so much rather do shows in converted movie theaters than like professional venues that just aren't suited for comedy, you know? Our green room for the converted theater was like, they had like a little daycare area for, I don't know, like kids theater or something like that. So we go into the theater, we set everything up, and he's like, all right, let me show you the green room. Takes us over to the kids area. And there's just like kids' toys and like a bin full of Cheerios and, you know, all this stuff. And I look around and I was like, what do they expect? Dane Cook's going to bring his wife? Everybody
I hadn't thought about this. So when you see the headlines, it says Dane Cook, 50, engaged to longtime, you know, girlfriend, love, so-and-so, 23. And everybody was very, very quick to point out that, yes, they got engaged and she was 23, but they started dating when she was 18. And people are very quick to say, but she was 18 when they started dating. However, they rarely then also de-age Dane Cook because he wasn't 50. He was also 5. He was also 5 years younger, and I just want people to be fair that it's not 50-year-old Dane Cook anymore dating 18-year-old. He was 45. So I just want to put that out there.
Much better.
Right.
I just want everyone to know that if you're going to go ahead and take 23-year-old girl and then de-age her to 18, just know that Dane Cook was also 5 years younger.
It's a good point. And,
I needed to get that off my chest. Just want everybody out there to know. Well, I got another joke. Yeah, I actually might pitch this as my joke today. I got a couple of fun ones, but it's Dane Cook related, so it might be fun.
Okay. Anything else for the catch up, everybody? Anything else? I got one thing that I want to tell you guys about.
Share that other great comedy moment I had.
Yeah.
We're playing a game, playing a bunch of, you know, like celebrity charades, stuff like that. And somebody says like, yeah, you're only as good as your weakest link. And I was like, yeah, you're only as quick as your slowest player. And then they both look towards one of their teammates. And the teammate is not paying attention. And he just goes, And I was like, not a good sound to prove them wrong. He didn't even hear them say that. It just like focus shifted to him, and he just naturally just went.
Excellent. I got a story for you guys. I was texting with Kirsten while I was away, and she was saying like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna relax today because it's been a really stressful week. And I wrote, you deserve it. And sometimes a phrase just like echoes through the memories of your brain. It just like lands on a very specific place. For example, every time I hear somebody say, I tried that, I go back to the movie War Games, because there's a moment in that movie where one of the guy goes, I tried that. Don't you think I would have tried that already? And for some reason that line is just like in my brain. And same thing with I'm on my way. is always The Simpsons. Yeah. But this one, so I have an extended family member who used to be like a big wig over at Fox Movie Studios. And I didn't know anything about this guy when I was growing up. Just like one day I'm walking into the living room and I see my mom and my dad watching a video on our television. And it's all these celebrities saying nice things to some guy named, I can't remember.
Harvey Weinstein, something. I don't know.
And so all these celebrities are going, great job, William. Congratulations. Blah, blah, blah. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger pops on and goes, you deserve it. Like that. And I was like, what is this? And my dad's like, so this you have a family member who's like an executive at Fox Movie Studio, and it's his birthday, so all these, or he got a promotion or something. Because Arnold Schwarzenegger wouldn't say you deserve it for turning another year old, probably. It was probably a promotion. And so I was just like, oh, that's really weird. But now every time I type the phrase you deserve it, or I think of the phrase you deserve it, it's always Arnold Schwarzenegger. And my brain goes, you deserve it.
That's great that that's like a personal one to you. It's not universal like the Simpsons ones
way.
I obviously know. Yeah, it's great. It's your own one. That's cool.
I think Arnold Schwarzenegger had the same message after Weinstein got canceled. He said, "You deserve it.
You deserve it. You're a bad man."
They just keep using the same clip.
Yeah. I have a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger soundboard sounds in my head on regular when somebody says something, you know.
So whenever someone says like the word tumor or
Right.
I'm a
Get to the
cop.
I'm a cop, you idiot.
Yeah.
Which one was I'm a cop, you idiot from? What was that?
Kindergarten cop, I believe.
Kindergarten Cop, I would guess.
Did he
but
say that in that movie? I'm a
don't
cop,
know.
you
He
idiot.
does.
Because I remember Kindergarten Cop. I can't think of a moment when he would have said that.
Was he talking to one of the kids? Didn't
I don't think
understand
so.
that he was a cop? Called him an idiot?
Well, no, because his whole thing was I'm not a cop. I'm a kindergarten teacher.
Right.
I don't know if you recall.
Yeah, I mean, he's a cop in a lot of movies, so...
But we all know where he was going to the chopper. That was Predator, which a couple of years ago, I rewatched Predator with fresh eyes and was just kind of like blown away by not only how tight that movie is, but just like how great of a concept. It's like whenever aliens come to Earth and attack, it's always like a helpless population, you know? But I forget who the writer was. I want to say Shane Black, maybe. No, he was in it and they had him do punch up. I watched a documentary. This is like, all right, what if we had like a very highly skilled and trained group of special forces go up against an alien? And it's like... excellent premise, you know.
It's. I mean, there's a reason it has stood the test of time and spawned a series of subpar movies for sure.
Until this latest one, Prey.
I haven't got to watch it yet.
You know, Asterix. I was high out of my mind, but I was just like watching this movie, like this is so fucking good. And I was texting Kirsten. I was high at the airport.
Don't tell him.
He's on the wing of a plane.
It's so tight. Like I feel like I'm getting all the relevant information, and it ends in a cliffhanger, which is so weird.
Flew by. I wanted more.
I can't wait for the sequel where we actually get to find out like who wins the fight, you know. But I just remember, I think like my high brain was like, this is really good. I was like, I don't see any flaws in this movie. Like it was so good. I highly recommend Prey.
I would like to watch a bunch of movie trailers in a movie theater, and then everybody should say at what point they're still interested when the movie trailer goes on for another 2 minutes. Like, I'm interested, stop now. And then they need to get back to people.
Yeah, a little button
who are
you
making
press,
these.
be like, next.
I'm like, what is... I wanted to watch this movie, and then you went in for another 2 minutes, and now I don't want to watch this movie.
You know, I've read up on this too, that it's like there was an actual shift, like a real market research had said that people generally want to know what it is that they're getting themselves involved with when it comes to seeing a movie. And so there was a time when they were like, no, you don't want to give away the farm. And then there was this actual title shift to say, no, we do want to give away the farm, because the market research has shown us that generally audiences want to know what they're about to get themselves into for the most part. And yeah, I think it's been a terrible change for, you know,
I wonder if there's
people
part
like
of it
me.
that's also the overstimulation, like the overexposure of content, so that you're more likely by the time the film comes out to forget what you saw.
That's a good point too.
Maybe you're like, oh, that's cool, there's a twist, and then you forget what the twist is. You're like, I wanted to see that movie for some reason.
yeah, like a little blend of the two, where it's like a subliminal thing where you're like, you're watching the movie, enjoying it because you're like, I'm following along. You're like, yeah, because you already saw it.
I'm smart.
I have a feeling she's gonna be the bad guy. Like, yeah, they showed that in the trailer.
Two things about that. Number one, I was having a conversation with Steve about action movies on the road, and he's like, have you ever seen the unofficial sequel to The Fugitive called U.S. Marshals with Wesley Snipes and Tommy Lee Jones? But then I was like, no. But I do have a habit of getting super high and watching random action movies. So it's possible that I have seen this movie. And Steve starts like talking about it. And he's like, and there's like part where he jumps on a train. And I'm like, yeah, none of this sounds familiar. And he goes, yeah, and Robert Downey Jr. is in it. And I was like, is he the bad guy? I have seen this movie. Yeah. Second thing, there was a period of time where there was this movie. I forget the name of it, but it had Rose McGowan, Selma Hayek, and who's the woman from? She's a comedian. She's really funny. She was in Girls Trip. She was in that movie with Kevin Hart where she's got to teach him how to pass high school.
I know who you're talking about. I think there's an H, something H.
Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish. Excellent. I just needed that H. Clutch.
Hey, that's all I had.
H. So I forget what this movie was.
Me too.
But Kirsten and I saw the trailer for this movie 1,000 times. And I don't know why. We see a lot of movies, but this was like bananas. And I think they had like delay release or something. So that just meant like the trailer was in theaters for like even longer. And it went from, we saw the trailer and we're like, all right, forgettable. We're not going to see it, whatever, to just like rage at seeing this trailer. Every time it's just like, this movie looks so fucking stupid. I don't want to see this fucking trailer anymore. And it was like weird, that rare thing that happens in advertising where it's like, you have shown me this too many times where now I can't even ignore it. I hate it. I actively hate this thing.
You hated it so much you completely wiped Tiffany Haddish from your mind.
Yeah, and the name of this movie. I'm just like, I fucking hate it. I hate it. I will destroy this movie if I given the opportunity. That's that thing you don't want in advertising.
I've called up places that put flyers on my car and been like, just so you know, because you did this, I'm never going to come to your restaurant. If there's ever an option for me to go your place or somewhere else, I will always choose the other place because it always gets like stuck to my windshield and then I peel it off and then I don't want to have a car. I hate it so much.
You guys just made me think of a great duo, a team that works together where it's like, he was special ops and ex-CIA, but sometimes is forgetful. He remembers the first letter of those words that he forgets. Together, they work together. And it's like, Jarret's just like, he does everything. But Brett's like, J?
H?
Yes, got it. You're a genius.
He's like, we have to stop the N. Nuclear bomb. Nuclear bomb.
Yes, okay. Oh man, I'm so glad you're here.
High five.
Brett, I was really nervous with where you're going with that N word. We have to stop the N? No, Jesus. Why would I even say that? I meant nuclear bomb. Oh,
okay.
Yes, we do. Oh my God, that's so funny. All right. Should we get to these bits, guys?
Let's get to these bits.
Let's do it. Skill Mold has a great addition to what we just said. The name of that movie, Partial Recall. Excellent.
Steel Mold. Killing it. Our order today is Jarret, Rob, Brett. Jarret, Rob, Brett. Order this week is Jarret, Rob, Brett.
All right.
Woohoo. I got a couple of real half-finished bits here.
Ooh.
All right, so let's try this one first.
Tiffany half-finished bits.
I've got a psychiatrist. He put me onto an antidepressant, and it's working really well. I like my psychiatrist not because he's good at his job, because he's very chill about me taking recreational drugs in addition to my antidepressants. Like one time I was like, is it safe to do mushrooms if I'm on antidepressants? And he was like, yeah, you'll be fine, but you should do some coke too. And I was like, oh, does the coke make it safer or something? And he's like, no, it's just fun. It's really fun.
This is a real thing he said?
No, I'm exaggerating for comedic effect.
The addition to it is very funny, but my believability stopped when he's like, you should also try coke.
Yeah, that was my concern also. So I guess I don't know if there's a fix there or
if there's another way to get there. Maybe if you're just like, he's like, yeah, but you could be at risk for kind of being really sluggish the next day. And you're like, what if I try coke? And he's like, definitely, that's a good idea. And you're like, oh, does it help with that? And he's like, no, but it's fun.
What if he's like, that's not a concern, but let me know if you're going to do coke instead. And I was like, oh, is that more dangerous? He's like, no, it's just fun. I want to hang out if that's what you're going to do.
Perfect. That totally fixes the problem.
Yeah, my reaction, I think, exemplifies what might be weird about the joke is that I'm just like, did he say that? Because at no point did I make the transition between set up Jarret and like joke Jarret. I wasn't quite sure because you just made me believe that this guy operates like this. Do you know what I mean? And him being cool with mushrooms, I'm like, sure. So it just wasn't
But that
weird.
part is true, right?
That part is true. Right?
That part is true. He's always been the real story is that when I was asking him about doing mushrooms on it, he was like, are you going to be doing like a pound of mushrooms every day for an entire weekend? Like, then that's a problem. But if you're going to, like trip out the way you usually do, then that's fine. That was number one. Number two was when I originally asked for the prescription, I was like, okay, so full disclosure, I did Molly last week. I don't know if I need to put, a good amount of time between when I start taking the antidepressants and when I did Molly. And he goes, no, if it's been like a week and a half, then you should be fine. And I'm also starting at a very low dose, so it'll definitely be safe. And then he goes, did you have fun?
Rob, would it fix it if Jarret were to just say he's been so cool about this stuff, which is true about me doing mushrooms, and it's as if he's going to at some point. It feels to me like he's going to. Is that enough?
Yeah, exactly. Like I know it might at this point feel cookie cutter, as far as like joke setup structure is concerned, but I definitely need to know that you have imagined this other guy. I was thinking that maybe a way to get into it for me would be that you could say, I was very sheepish about even mentioning this to this guy. Like I had a dilemma where I was like, oh my God, I got to mention to I don't want to be unsafe, but I need to mention to my psychiatrist that I take mushrooms a lot. Like I did something I do and how is it going to, so I very sheepish was like, hey, I'm just wondering with this new thing, I happen to, and you're kind of dancing around it. And then his response like, oh yeah, you take some shrooms in there? Yeah, okay, well, just wait. And you're like, whoa, this guy was way too cool with me, whatever. Now it's just like, I feel like I could go in there and be like, yeah, like I get really sluggish afterwards. He could just be like, oh, just take a bump of Coke in the morning. That'll be fine. You're good to go there. Like, oh, all right, cool. I'm thinking about partying this little. Yeah. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to sprinkle the LSD into the weed that you're smoking. That's, you got to get an even spread. You want each puff to be equal amounts. Otherwise, you don't know what kind of night you're going to have. Anyway, it's like when the nurse has just got her buttons open. She's got a line of Coke across her tits. All right. I got another appointment.
Aviators indoors. Just yeah, man. We're great. That's funny.
And you might be able to also tinker with the notion that I know has been touched upon before that doctors and psychiatrists, probably in particular, are just a version of drug dealers anyway. So it's not that weird for them to be like, they should be knowledgeable of illicit drugs. Like they should be very knowledgeable about them. In fact, like they should be in touch with the real world enough to know that like this is a likely thing to happen. And so, it's almost like instead of teaching abstinence in schools, you should probably be teaching safe sex. Similarly, I would say that if you're a psychiatrist, you shouldn't be like, well, you really should mix it. You'd be like, if it's gonna happen, it seems like it's gonna from time to time. Here's best practices. All right. Thing.
Counterpoint, you are specifically dealing with people in not great mental states who don't make great decisions a lot. Maybe this is something you can prepare for, like have a response for,
Yeah, exactly. It's like anytime I've ever been honest with a dentist about, or they'll be like, have you been flossing? And I'll be like, no, it's something I'm trying to, and they'll be like, you have to floss. You need to floss. Like, I'm like, be realistic. I'm brushing my teeth. That's great. Okay, let's pick our battles here.
Yeah.
Do you know what's crazy? I'm just gonna lie.
This has been crazy for me. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I went to the dentist now the past 3 trips. Yeah, I went to the dentist. Okay. I have not gotten a floss conversation, not a single floss conversation. And my flossing has, been historically erratic. But every time I've gone now, they've said, you're brushing too hard. And I was like, what? They're like, are you brushing too hard? I'm like, maybe, yeah. I brush pretty aggressively. They're like, yeah, you got receding gums, and that's because you're brushing too hard. I was like, what about the flossing? They're like, no, it's because you're brushing too hard. And I was like, has the science changed? Because I have been told ever since I was a kid that flossing is absolutely the most important thing. And now you're telling me that aggressive brushing is what's causing gum recession? And they're like, yeah. I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, you feel that sensitivity here and there? It's because you're brushing too hard. I was like, where the fuck were you? I've been told to brush like a maniac, and that's what I've been doing. And now 30 years later, they're like, we fucked up. I'm gonna lie. We were we were big on flossing and brushing, and now you need a soft toothbrush and you need to brush less. I was like, this is unbelievable.
I think that there was a revelation a few years ago. There is no empirical evidence to indicate that flossing is vastly beneficial.
Yeah, it's a kind of a person by person basis. Like, it really depends on the crowding of their teeth. Like, if you have a consistent problem with food and other shit getting caught in there, yeah, you got to get that out. Some people never floss a day in their life, never have even an issue.
This feels like an attack.
Are they on my case about
this? Feels like an attack on me, guys. I gotta be honest. As somebody who, if I have a thing in my mouth, I have to completely brush my teeth, and every night I need to floss and do a special mouthwash and do my little gum pickies all over the place. And you guys are like, yeah, dentists were completely wrong about flossing, right? I'm just sitting, all my teeth are falling out, and I'm like, yeah, they don't know anything. Floss, everybody, floss. You don't want to end up like this guy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I think that was an opportunity for us to go, well, no, there's some good things about being Jarret. And I thought that's what Rob was going to do. And he went, yeah.
You don't want any of this. You don't want any of this. Very funny, guys.
What else you got there, Jarret? What other half-brained idea you got cooking up in the half-brain?
This one is like, I like how whenever you look up directions on Google Maps, it'll give you like different options of the way to go. Like there's the quickest way, but it also show you like a longer way that you might want to take. But the thing that I love about this the most is like if you're taking like a 5-hour drive, you'll just be like driving along, and then on the directions there'll be like a little bit of a slightly grayed out left-hand turn, and it's like if you want this drive to be 3 times as long, you could take a left over here. And it's as though you're going to be like, do I want to spend all day driving instead of just most of the... The way that they just call like, hey, just want to let you know as an option, if you want this drive to be way longer. I can understand it if it's like when you're deciding what route to take. If you're like, oh, actually, I want to swing up north because of this, you know. But like while you're already on the road, just being like, all right, last chance for that extra 5 hours on the road, guys.
And you know what? I bet you people do it because I've been at the grocery store a few times where there's just a huge line where you can't even see the front and people are just getting on the line. And I've been like, we're going to go see if there's other registers up front. And maybe 1 or 2 people on those lines. But it was so far back that people were like, oh, there's the lines. They're just, I gotta get on. So people are probably like, oh, it's probably better, you know.
It's probably better to go the long way.
Yeah, probably better, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's something there, but...
It is very funny and a good observation. Can you make it analogous to something else where it's like a worse option? Maybe on a menu, it's like you could get the same meal, but it costs twice as much.
If I were to stay within the world of Google Maps, there is something that does happen that's interesting where you type in where you want to go, and then it gives you options for how you want to get there. You can drive, you can take public transit, you can bike, or you can walk. But once you make the decision, it stops bugging you about the other options. What I find weird is that it still bugs me during my trip about potentially going on a 3-hour detour. I mean, it might as well at every juncture point be like, you could still walk. You sure you don't want to walk? You're like, yeah, I already pressed the button. I want to go this way. Hey, why are you offering me weird
option.
alternatives?
Ditch your car by the side of the road and take an Uber. What do you think about this?
Thought about that?
Yeah.
I also thought while you were talking, like, it'd be funny if it integrated other things. Like, you know, our phones are getting smarter and Google's always trying to figure out ways. It'd be interesting if it was just like, hey, that girl you hooked up with 2 years ago lives 2 hours away. You know, if you want, you could...
could leave you around there.
Look around there. Remember? That was Audrey's place. You spent a couple hours there 2 years ago. Yeah, no, I'm good. Thanks.
Did you say that was like the Facebook Memories thing? Because that's what that reminded me of, but I wasn't sure if you just said that.
I didn't say Facebook Memories specifically, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm integrating. Just other things about your life that Google knows. And so it's just kind of like, hey, you want to go there? That'd be fun.
Yeah, that is kind of funny though about the way that your phone will just sort of like pop up like a picture from like 5 years ago on this day. And it could be like a girl you were dating back then and you're there with your wife and kids now and just like this thing popped up. So why doesn't Google Maps do that? You know, like you're driving to the beach with your family. It's just like, you want to swing by your ex's house? We're right there, you know?
What if there's one of the things that shows like you could take this other route, but it also goes like plus 3 hours if you get into an accident over here. You know, like if you drive into this pole, it would add 3 hours.
Oh, that's really funny.
It's just like telling you constantly information that you're not interested in.
If you accidentally leave your bag at the hotel, that'll add a bunch of time. Also,
Do you want to do that?
I'll
Just
go
press
back. I have one tiny thing to add to this because it's similarly like when you're putting in like an address. Sometimes when you're putting in an address to like a Google Maps thing, it'll be predictive. You know, like you just put in a 3 and it'll make just like the most long shot call. Did you mean 3759 Jessamine St. Cambridge, Massachusetts? And you're like, no, not even close. Not even close.
You said 3 and you just got me thinking. All right. You keep going. You keep going.
All right, so it's 3-2. Did you mean 3287 Nevada? No, not Nevada. No. Okay.
Okay. Whatever.
It's like a
Really
person
thought that's where you're going, or really that's where you're going.
interrupts like your story, but only a few words in.
Yeah.
Like, so I went to, and they're like, to the mall in Albuquerque? You're like, no.
The hospital with my dad,
Oh,
who you
sorry,
discovered
sorry.
was not actually your dad. Oh, Jesus.
Just let me finish. Yeah, I love that. I love that as you say it, kind of more in the Brett way, where it's like Google predictive is great, but be a really annoying friend to have when you're trying to tell a story to or whatever. I don't know, there's a couple different ways that would definitely make me laugh, but the observation's wonderful.
Yeah,
All
great.
right.
Great obs.
Thanks, guys. And next up we got Brian.
Ryan. Yeah, one more thing. I don't think this is funny for your joke, Jarret, is just this idea that, like, not ominous, but there's something weirdly, like, powerful of this, like, road less traveled, like almost as if it's like it's teasing you, like, should I just say fuck the wedding and then just like take this other path?
Oh my God,
like
that's
it's
so funny.
providing you, you're like, Google Maps, what are you telling me to do? Like, I'm on my way. I'm going to the venue, I'm doing the thing, like, you sure don't want to go?
Yeah, so instead of an alternate direction, an alternate location. And it's like, I know you're driving to Spokane, but Canada is right there, man. Right there. New life. Shit, everything, man.
It's actually your phone just wants to go to Canada. This all reminded me of the funny moment where I had when I was hand to mouth, but I was still going on a lot of dates. I had a date planned and I searched for a bar for us to meet up, and I put Cheap Bars NYC. I found a bar, and then we went there, and then we were gonna go to a different bar. I was like, oh, let's find something, and I opened up my phone, and my date was like, did you put in Cheap Bars NYC? And I was like, yeah. And she was like,
That's awesome.
okay.
All right.
To avoid, because I want to take you to nice places.
Now I don't know where not to go. Oh, that's great.
All right, next up we got.
So my Dane Cook joke thought idea was that I was talking about the Dane Cook with some friends of mine, and we were discussing the idea that we were trying to get down to the definition of grooming specifically, which in this Dane Cook scenario, if the rumors are true that they met before this person was 18, I think it very classically falls under the definition of grooming, where you're literally chatting someone up and getting to know them before they're 18, so that by the time they turn 18, it seems super natural and reasonable for you guys to start dating because it's all technically legal. But you knew this person when they were 16 and 17, and you were just grooming them to be ready to date you. I think it's a little weird when people kind of go outside that definition and they're like, you know, someone's dating a 24-year-old, they're like, he's grooming her. And I'm like, that's not what that is, but whatever. Who cares? Anyway, forget that part of it. I just thought it was funny, the fact that you're like, yeah, like you meet someone, they're 16, they're obviously not ready to date you. You're obviously whatever, you know, you're grooming this person and you're just waiting for them to turn 18. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, when the military goes to your high school and it's just like sets up a little booth. And it's just like, hey, you know, like, and I was like, Dane Cook should just go to high school to set up a booth and just be like, look, I know not right now, but here's a pamphlet, just think it over. All right, there's all the details right there. And when you turn 18, you know,
Hey,
not the rest of your life, just spend a couple of years here and, you know, I'll pay for college by the time you're done if you want. You will get PTSD afterwards, but that's, you know.
And you might lose some buddies over there. You know?
Yeah. So that was it. I just wanted to compare grooming to military, basically. Or you know what, colleges too. It doesn't matter. Like anytime you're going into a high school to be like, hey, you know, I know you're not ready to make this $200,000 decision yet, but how about you consider going to Dartmouth? I was like, okay, maybe. That sounds nice. And you're just 15 years old. You have no fucking idea what to do. And then by the time you're 18, you're like, boom, 200K. You're giving it to me. You're like, okay, this is what I want, right?
I mean, for my money, just from a morality standpoint, I would much rather you go at the military industrial complex than, you know, college, which is not perfect. Obviously, it's definitely on the predatory scale, but let's hit the military
marginally
priority.
I don't even know, to be honest. As I get older, they're getting equally weird to me. Do you know what I mean? Like the idea of just like, well, we have to get them young. It's almost like they're going after a different subset of people, though. It's like, well, you know, you are less educated and you are poorer, so we're scooping you up, the military. You are slightly more educated and richer, we're scooping you up, the college university
you are
complex.
in danger of becoming middle class, so we're going to make sure you're poor. You know, and then those poor kids will join the military.
And then McDonald's scoops up the rest. They're like, all right, we'll take those guys. Walmart and Amazon just takes, we'll take you guys. We'll take you guys. There's something about it. It becomes increasingly weird. I mean, I understand kids do have to grow up and to be adults eventually anyway. But something about this, like this ripe age to like, you know, ooh, I'm going to start picking kids out before they know what crazy life-altering choices they're about to embark on. They're going to start making, you know. Anyway, that was my quick little thought there.
I have a thought about this. So going back to like the groomer side of things, it's sort of like, obviously, I don't think that grooming is good, but I can imagine a very frustrated, I know there's a specific word for when you're dating like a teen as opposed to like trying to have sex with a baby. Yeah, we basically call them all pedophiles just for convenience sake, you know?
Yeah.
I think that those guys that want to date teens when they're like 40 years old or something are like, so I can't fuck them when they're 16. I can't wait to fuck them until they're 18. Like, what am I supposed to do, you know? It's like they have to do like a new thing where it's just like they orbit them, like they can't even introduce themselves. They just kind of have to like just like be around, you know.
They're just like reading over newspapers until the moment is until they turn 18.
Turn 18. I'd just be like, hey, I just want to introduce myself. You seem cool, you know. Yeah, that the idea of like them complaining that the goalposts keep on getting moved.
That's,
you know,
funny.
we're just like, well, yeah, the thing you're doing is bad, you know.
Yeah, it is funny because like I don't know if I take issue with it, but it is funny to me that like to delineate legality, there has to be a point where it's like, here's the line, right? Like whether like our morals are going to shift from generation to generation, from part of the world, culture to culture, whatever, as far as like what is morally, socially acceptable and what is not, right? But within each culture, we're like, okay, but we need to have a law, so we're delineating this point. And then it's funny because, yes, a lot of the creeps are like, okay, but where's the line exactly? Like, just tell me where it is. Oh, 18, okay. I got it.
Is it legal for me to camp out by the line? Just like sit right here.
Oh, Gary, it's technically legal, but...
So I can sit here. That's not a big deal then. I'm just sitting. Just read a book over here.
Okay, but everyone's going to judge you if you do that. Do you see why?
Well, that's kind of the thing. It's like if you do that, then everybody knows you wanted to do the illegal.
No. I liked that number 18. That's exactly where I agreed. I said that should have been 18. So it was weird because you and I actually agreed perfectly because that's what I thought.
That right there, I think that's the thing that the joke should inject. You need to inject that part into the joke because I think that's classic. It's like, well, we're upset because no, I agree with you guys. I agree with you. I'm just saying. That's funny.
There's someone, I forget who it was. I think I was just scrolling through Reels and someone had a joke about when they had to decide on the legal age state by state. And it was like they were acting like it was colonial times, which may or may not have been true. I don't think that's true. But it's basically like, and you know, the Senate, the representative from Massachusetts, 16. And they're like, what? Come on, Bill. Gross. He's like, what? What had to go first? That's not fair.
What was this Price is Right rules? Jesus.
What's the matter with you? Ah, damn it. He was empathizing with the guy who had to go first. So that was a funny little bit. Oh, here's one thing that I wanted to point out. This is neither here nor there. Have you guys heard people use the argument about how people's brains aren't fully formed until they're 25 when it comes to this debate of like dating younger girls? Jarret?
I've heard it in the context of when you should start experimenting with drugs, where people are like, coke and marijuana and, hallucinogenic mushrooms. If you're going to experiment with any of these things, you should really wait until you're 25, because otherwise you're going to affect the way that your brain develops.
Well, that kind of takes the piss out of my observation, which was like,
Sorry.
I only seem to hear this brain developing thing when it comes to this specific argument. So it's like, oh my God, he's dating a 22-year-old. Her brain's not even fully formed. And I'm like, when have I ever heard this stat thrown out? I don't hear it when it comes to joining the army. I don't hear about it when it comes to deciding on whether to go to college or not. I don't hear about it when it decides like, oh, I'm going to go off into the workforce to do this. Never. But as soon as a 23-year-old wants to date someone, it's like, she's a baby and her brain's mush and she doesn't even know how to think yet. And I'm like, what? I've never heard this outside of this specific conversation. It's gotta make me laugh. And like, yeah, tell them that their brain is mush. They're not fully formed. That is a perfect way to get them to fuck a 50-year-old.
I love that the one thing that is at 25 is car rentals.
Oh, that's true.
So they're like, well, these people aren't going to know how to refill the gas tank until they're 25. I mean, their brains aren't developed. They'll leave straw wrappers all over the car.
Oh, that's so funny.
If you want to rent a car, date an older man who can rent it for you. All right? That's the solution.
If someone wakes up on their 25th birthday, they're just like, I should fill up the gas tank, of course. What was I doing? What was I thinking?
Don't run into other cars.
Oh, God.
I had one more line. If you do the military analogy is you will be issued a piece that you will have to polish.
Wow. Brett
Excellent.
for the win. That's great. All right, here's a silly one. You know the phrase, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
The full quote is, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
All right. That peppers things a little bit. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. To me, it sounds like two people came up with it. One guy who was very sharp, and the other one who just was like just like that shitty writing partner that just thinks that they're contributing. And this guy's just like, absolute power corrupts. And then the second guy's like, absolutely. You're just like, well, yeah, I mean, I thought that was implied. Like, no, because you said, I know why you said absolutely. I get it, because I said it earlier. But do you see how I don't see how it adds to it? Like, isn't that kind of implied, Like, if I were to say love wins, and then you were to say love wins absolutely, do you see how it doesn't add to the first thing that I just said?
Well, if you had said like absolute love wins, then I'm saying absolute wins absolutely.
I don't agree with you.
It's like
if I said total power corrupts and then you said total power corrupts totally, do you think that sounds good?
I do. I think it's better. I think it's
not
catchier.
Better.
It's catchier.
Fine. Absolutely.
It kind of feels like the relationship between a writer and an editor.
Sure.
Like the editor just makes those tiny little tweaks, and then it's like better.
This is better,
right?
Better. The making of Back to the Future had a bunch of twists and turns. One of which, just a little quick studio note. The guy who was in charge of greenlighting the whole project and stuff, he had some notes and he made some good changes. He turned, Einstein from a monkey to a dog, which probably a good change. But then one of the big ones was, he's like, hey, instead of Back to the Future, it should be called Spaceman from Pluto. And like Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis were like, what the fuck are we gonna do? It's like the head of the studio wants to call it Spaceman from Pluto, and they show Steven Spielberg. They're like, what the fuck do we do about this? And Spielberg's like, all right, I think I know what to do. And Spielberg writes a memo. He says to secretary, hey, write a memo to, so and so. He says, got your memo, hilarious joke, we all had a great laugh. and he's like, and Spielberg knew that he'd be too embarrassed to like clarify, like, no, I really wanted to be called Spaceman from Pluto. So he just shut his mouth. He's like, okay.
Well, originally they were supposed to go 87 miles per hour, but that executive came in.
And then what else? Oh, and they were going to go to a nuclear power plant. They would get the power that they needed. The whole thing was going to be, they were going to set off some like nuclear, it was going to be crazy. They were set off like an explosion or something to get him back. It was something
All we have
nuts.
to do is destroy this small town.
I was like, I don't
and
really
we can go back to
know
the 50s.
how it was gonna work exactly. It was it was to get back, whatever. It was very strange. So it was like plutonium to get back, and then they had to go to a nuclear power plant to send him back, and then they had to like shave off like $5 million from the budget, thankfully. And they were like, well, this is a really expensive scene. We go to the nuclear power plant. They're like, how about we just keep it on the studio lot? They're like, yeah, but what else gives a lot of power? And they're like, how about a lightning bolt? They're like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, but you don't know when a lightning bolt's gonna strike. You're like, but unless it stops something like a clock tower. And then it was just like, how did you not originally come up with that? It's so funny how sometimes these like things fall into place because you're just like, of course, it's right in town, clock tower.
I like to imagine if they did go with a nuclear power plant, like at the end of the movie when you see all the like the changes that have happened, everybody's just got like 5 arms and stuff like that.
That's close enough. All right. I love it.
Right.
All right. Thanks for the help, boys.
Thank you, Rob. What a great couple of bits. All right, next up we got Brett Duck. But before we get to that, just want to remind everybody, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/ITAPod, the best Patreon on the block. The Patreon episode for August is already done and edited and will be uploaded soon. So join for as little as $1 a month. Check out that episode. I've also edited 3 weeks of regular episodes in advance. So I'm just saying this so I can get my kudos and accolades.
Jarret, you're the man.
That's right.
Great job. I wasn't
Thank
paying
you.
attention.
Thank
Jarrett's
you.
been editing like a monster.
You deserve it.
Oh yeah.
You deserve it.
Patreon.com/ITAPod. Next up, Bat and Cleanup, your headliner.
All right, this one I just think is an idea that it's funny. I don't think it can work as a stand-up joke, but I think you guys will enjoy it. I was at the airport and they had that sign that said "To all gates," and I immediately thought, "Wow, this is probably the worst rendition, the musical of Fiddler on the Roof." To all gates, to life. Okay, maybe it didn't hit.
Damn it. I'm sorry. I was
just thinking-
I wasn't seeing the connection.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was so far away from "To life" to all gates. I don't know. It made me laugh. And then I wrote "Fiddler on the Tarmac."
You wrote a whole musical called Fiddler on the Tarmac just
I
based off
did,
of that?
yeah. But since you guys didn't get that first part, I won't sing it for you.
So to me, it sounded like a letter, like the start of a letter. It's like, to all gates, you're wonderful. I just don't think it's working out.
Like you're writing to Gates McFadden. You're writing to
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Fences.
You guys done?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to bother you with our comments and notes and feedback.
I told you it was a dumb idea. I thought at best it's just going to entertain you, and it didn't even do that. So I'm ready to move on.
This part is entertaining. I like this part.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's sit in it for as long as possible.
Gates McFadden starred in Star Trek.
So I wanted to add this to my joke that I've brought here before. It works really well on the road, but it always feels like it needs more. I got a text from a friend that said, "Don't worry, we can still hang out tomorrow." Turns out it wasn't COVID, it's something else. That always gets a big laugh. I think we had some additions to it, but the angle I want to take in now, I was like, how about we hang out when it's not COVID and it's also not anything? I don't think I want to catch something that hasn't even been named yet. Like, I don't want to be the second guy to get something. I wouldn't even be patient 0. I'd be patient 1. Nobody wants to be patient 1. But I think it must have been a weird diagnosis. Like the doctor comes over, he's like, "Turns out it's something. I'm gonna write you a prescription for." But I like imagining my friend, like whatever he has, he's just over there with he's like bleeding from the eyes. He's like, "Yeah, man, we can still hang out, no problem. Just a couple dudes getting some coffees, and one of them has skin that's falling off."
I like in there, I was thinking of no one wants to be patient one. I'm just friends with the guy with the pet monkey. That's me. I'm just his buddy.
I like all these pieces. I like all these parts. And I remember working with you on this show and also seeing you do this bit on the road. I think the issue is that the blocks are sort of like in a weird order. Like the ideas aren't being presented to the audience in a way that's like logical and goes like from A to C to D to blah, blah, blah. And I remember even watching you do this on the road and thinking that you need a little bit of ligament between something else being just something else or something that hasn't even been discovered yet. Like it's a brand new disease. And so I think that if you just shuffle around some of those ideas, it'll be like the weirdness ladder that'll eventually get you to, you know, this guy has a disease that's never been invented yet.
So maybe like it turns out it's something else, and I was like, I don't think I want that either. Like I imagine my friend was over there bleeding from the eyes. Like, yeah, man, we could still hang, no problem. Here, just a couple dudes. Getting some coffees, and one of them has skin that's falling off. How about we hang out when it's not COVID and also not anything? I don't want to catch something that hasn't even been named yet. I don't want to be the second guy to get something. I wouldn't even be patient zero. I'd be patient one. Does that like that kind of switch?
It does, but I still think you need a little ligament in the middle of that. So you did the part about bleeding from the eyes. Then the next part, I think you need like a thing in there that's like, he didn't say what it was. He said it was something else, as though it's a disease that hasn't even been named yet. You know,
I have the same thought, same note, which is like, yes, in my brain, I still have a bifurcation of like a disease that we're fully aware of, which is just I have a cold, I have the flu. It turns out it was a stomach bug. Okay, and some of which are communicable, some of which are non-communicable. So like, there is a totally logical explanation for someone to say, "Oh, it's not COVID, don't worry." But I think I need, as the audience, just that little clue that he didn't even say what it was, so it's still a mystery to me. And like, I don't think I want any of that.
I think the section where the doctor gives it as something else could also be that ligament, where it's like, why didn't he just tell me what it was? You know, did the doctor tell him it was something else, and you know, it was similarly vague?
Yeah,
like
I don't even want something that's not even named yet, or something. Yeah. Just that little bit would get me on that path, because there is a part of my brain that just logically is going, Brett, like, he could just mean it's something else. Like, not that I think you're stupid or that whatever, but I know I'd get caught up even just for like a half a second.
So, but yeah, I think I like the line of, he didn't even say that it was what it was. He just said it was something, like as if the doctor diagnosed him that way. He was like, well, turns out it's something. I'm like, I don't want something that hasn't even been named yet. Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
I get it now.
That gets me there for sure.
I got one more quicker one. People will blame video games. They'll blame school shooters on video games. They'll blame video games for school. I can't get the sentence together.
Because of all these school shooters, they came up with a bunch of video games.
Great, we got this. This is the easiest fix that we've ever done on This Is Anything. All right. People are always blaming school shootings on video games.
Ah, there you go. That's cracks the nut.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody.
That was. I hope you guys liked it.
Outro goes here.
It's gonna kill. I don't buy that. Maybe the news isn't reporting on it, but as soon as I hear about a shooter teabagging the victims, then I'll be like, okay, maybe video games have a role to play here.
Is this based off of, I'm not a gamer, like the chat that goes on within the...
It is a very common thing since like probably like Halo to go on top of the person that you just killed and then crouch spam. So you're just up and down, and you're essentially teabagging them.
Oh, that's funny. Damn,
I don't know that it will be absolutely universal, but I think it's been, I mean, we're talking like 15 years of this, and I still see it in games now. So I think it'll be recognizable enough.
Sure.
For me, it's right on the edge. I'm like, if I wrote this joke, I'd be super worried that people wouldn't get it. But I think I agree with you, Brett, that it might be part of the cultural lexicon enough for it to.
If not, I can do this joke in like 2 or 3 years.
So my roommate plays a ton of video games, which is interesting. And I've been able to just walk in and I'm learning about video games now through him. And it's funny because the first person video game concept is just like, it's very similar. He's playing a God of War, and he's just a god, and he's killing people. And then I'm watching him playing Elden Ring, and he's just a different guy. And but everything's the same. I'm like, yeah, you're still just running around doing things, and whatever. And then there was I walked in the room the other day. He's like, oh yeah, in this game I'm a cat, and he is just a cat walking around. I'm like, all right, I don't really but the mechanics are still exactly the same. I'm like, but you do the same things, right? He's like, Well, I mean, yes, and like a lot of the maneuvers, and once you're kind of familiar with it, it's the same thing. I'm like, so what difference does it make what sprite you are running around? He's like, which is a very funny little conversation. It was like, I don't see the difference in these games. Is basically my point.
But that's like kind of like introduced to music and then being like, well, so they have different instruments and they're playing different notes, but essentially it's still the same
sounds
thing.
that go in your ear, you know?
Well, like I definitely did not enjoy, and I know Elden Ring kind of famously doesn't do this, but a lot of the games he plays, it's like there was a shark game, and the shark like sends out like a little sonar thing to see where the enemies are. In my brain, I was like, yeah, water, I don't really, sure, whatever. The shark's got that ability. And then he's playing some other game where he's just a space woman out in Space World, and she also like pinged out a sonar thing to find where enemies were. And I was like, wait, so what? I was like, everybody has it.
They
Like,
learned it from the sharks. They learned it from sharks. It's the future.
he's like, yeah, a lot of games you can kind of just ping and find out where the enemies are. I'm like, that's so fucking stupid. I'm like, and then there's arrows that tell you where to go next. I was like, video games just tell you where to go next? He's like, yeah, you kind of just know where to go next. I was like, does this not bother you? Does this not feel like this is stupid? He's like, I don't know. This is what video games are now. Like, I was like, all right, whatever.
I'm surprised he's still letting you watch him play.
Get the fuck out of here, man. I like this. This is fun for me. I'm a cat. Leave.
Back to your bit, Brent. I'm trying to think of like other things from video games besides teabagging that you could include. Not that you would get rid of teabagging, but like,
Right.
Are they trying to get power-ups? Are they?
Yeah, if you could think of any examples, I know Rob just found out about video games recently. So, Garrett, if you've got anything.
I was enjoying when you misspoke earlier, and as if school shootings were based off of video. No, I'm sorry, video games were based off of a school shooting.
I'm still a little hungover from this weekend.
But that made me laugh.
That's extremely dark. I'm surprised nobody's done that yet. Yeah.
Yeah, we should make a school shooter video game.
No, we shouldn't. No,
Yeah,
that was the thesis of what I was saying, was that we shouldn't.
No, but you'll be a cat, or you could just be like the Uvalde Police Department, and then it's just like you're just hanging around outside, like you got binoculars.
A cop movie, but it's about the Uvalde Police Department. Nothing happens.
Nothing happened.
Nothing
Like a waiting for
happens.
Godot thing.
I got to level 80 on Candy Crush. Thank you very much. Nothing happens. Hold on, I'm texting my slam piece. All right, I'm gonna see her tonight.
The mission is just to prevent parents from going inside the building. I stopped 80 parents today. That's a lot of parents.
Yeah, there's achievements. There's most of the things that come to mind are just like vicious trash talk that is really problematic. And I think a lot of school shooters put that in their manifestos anyways. So that one is too on the nose.
What about they try killing their classmates by jumping on top of them?
Like
Super Mario.
Super Mario?
Yeah.
Well, some school shooters are better at killing their classmates than others, I've noticed. Like some platinum, like the school for sure. Like they 100% it.
I do like switching genres. I love the idea of being like, wait a minute, like kind of naively being like, wait, you're blaming this on video games, but they didn't have go-karts. You know?
Yeah, you just picked the wrong video game straight up. That's very funny.
They're going through the games like, where is Zelda? I'm looking for Zelda.
Yeah, if someone came into a school with like a sword and like a magical bow and arrow, then I'd be like, I think this one was definitely based off a video game. I'm sorry, but
The Uvalde kid, he goes up to the police officer, and the cop is like, "It's dangerous in there. You'll need this."
Yeah, that does tickle me the most, because it's like guns are generic. We can't say that guns just came from there. We have guns in the real world. We have guns in video games. So it's just a strange thing to make that connection, because you're gonna skip over the real life guns. Like you're gonna skip over all that. You're gonna skip over all the billboards and ads and whatever in all these places, and the gun shows and the whatever, like all the glorification of these things. And we're gonna jump straight to video games.
I like just saying I've never heard of a school shooter dressed as Kirby. That tickles me.
What about Sonic? Or just be like, oh, were they running from classroom to classroom, bumping into people and stealing their coins?
Rings.
Was it rings? Oh shit, I'm
It was
dumb.
rings.
See, I know video games. Actually, you want to check out this little setup.
Ooh. Ooh.
Wow.
Oh, if he was Kirby, would he just be sucking off all the students?
Probably
Isn't that
not.
what Kirby does?
I don't think he sucks people off.
Thought that would get a pop. But he does inhale things. He does suck.
He does inhale
That's
things,
the whole
yes.
thing.
Zelda route kind of makes me, because it's just so, the weapon of choice is
Yeah.
they're just so different. And sometimes there's potions involved and magic too.
A school boomeranger.
We were going to go in, but it turns out he had a magic boomerang. It's,
I don't hear about anybody trying to ban assault boomerangs. All right, good stuff, guys.
he
Good
bought him
episode.
legally with rupees over the internet.
Sorry. The bullies you want to kill are in a different castle.
Well, great episode.
Great ep.
Thanks for joining us on the live chat, all you chatters and non-chatters. We will see you again soon. Great episode. Jarret, is there something that goes somewhere?
The outro goes here.
Thanks so much for watching. Check back every Monday for new episodes, or you can listen wherever you enjoy podcasts. If you want to help support the show, tell your friends how much you like Is This Anything? Or get involved, like an episode, share, comment, subscribe. If you want more Is This Anything, you gotta join our Patreon at patreon.com/ITAPod. We have a ton of awesome exclusive content on there, and you can join for as little as $1 a month. Check out the links in the description, and hopefully we'll see you next week.